Well, after months of speculating, Tiana's is now finally opening here in the next few weeks. And even though we haven't been making videos too often on this channel, I decided that with the official POV from Disney themselves being released just the other day, I think this is about the time that we come back and we talk about this ride some, since our speculations were honestly kind of accurate on it and how we thought it wasn't necessarily going to be the best replacement for Splash Mountain. So what are people exactly saying about this attraction? Well, we're basically kind of going to go through the layout of the entire ride as you see here and kind of, relay what others are saying about it, also with our own opinions, because our opinions are very similar to what, honestly, the general public is saying. So basically, you start off the ride here, and it's kind of the exact same as Splash Mountain is, except, there's a bit more of, like, moss and more, I think, realism to, like, the details and stuff like that. This is, in the world of Tiana's and Princess and the Frog, not necessarily like the cartoon world like Splash Mountain. Anyways, going to the ride itself, alongside this fence here, you have, like, this painted, like, vegetable garden and spices and stuff like that, and I think for any other attraction, it would do fine, but I just don't like the way it looks in this one. It looks kind of cheap in my opinion. And then right here you have the Tiana animatronic kind of just welcoming you to the attraction. Nothing too crazy though, very similar to how Splash Mountain was with the frog welcoming you to that attraction. And then of course you have the Tiana's food sign going through there. And basically this whole section is kind of just like a garden, kind of showing like what the setting is exactly, which is a salt mine in which Tiana has taken over to make it into like her little garden for her restaurant or whatever, which is kind of, in my opinion, just, turning it from like this big old mountain with like a bunch of these like critters. And it was like a little critter neighborhood, basically, turning it into just a oversized garden. It's just a kind of a really just boring and, mediocre kind of way of retheming this attraction. But anyways, over here, there's just a lot more moss, and, there's a couple colorful jars hanging there. I guess, that's where like the spices are supposed to be or something. And I think it's supposed to be Mama Odie's like little cabin or something. Anyways, you go down the iconic first drop into the actual dark ride portion. Now, I would like to say that things get a bit more interesting here, but in all honesty, they don't. You kind of just go by some like regular plants and stuff, and you have this animatronic of Lewis, and it's fine, I guess, although his mouth is already broken in POVs that released just today, which is kind of embarrassing. You pass by some critters and another animatronic of Tiana in like a safari suit, which doesn't even really fit the vibe of the attraction, honestly. And then, yeah, you just pass by a lot of really dark scenes, which seems to be a big trend in this attraction. I get it's a dark ride, but they're kind of taking that to advantage and just making every scene that they don't have anything to put there just dark. And as you see here, we're passing by some more animatronics, but it feels really awkward because they're all very misplaced and just kind of awkwardly placed, in my opinion. You have like the same characters reappearing like 3 seconds after each other, and it's like, how did they get from point A to point B? You know what I mean? And I get Splash Mountain was kind of like that, but in that story, you're kind of like following the characters through their journey. Anyways, here you have Tiana and Lewis, doing some silly gags and stuff like that. And this is the only part that I think is actually kind of interesting, where you get shrunken down to like the size of a firefly, I believe it is, or maybe it's a frog or something, by Mama Odie. And I think that it's a cool concept for an attraction such as this with like the whole voodoo kind of stuff. But even now, it kind of just seems like it's blatantly ripping off Splash Mountain in that one scene where you're just like under the mushrooms. It kind of just seems like a lazy way of sort of like, using the story and like the previous layout of Splash Mountain to their advantage here. Because in Splash Mountain, you were like in like this whole little like mushroom area and with all these little critters around you and stuff like that. Like you were the size of the critters, and they didn't feel like, I guess, scrapping all this out. So yeah, and this is my least favorite part because it has the screen with Tiana and Lewis, and it's so out of proportion. It looks so strange. And just everything in this section is just so like repetitive. It's like the same thing over and over again, and nothing in here I feel like helps to keep the story flowing in a kind of smooth way that Splash Mountain had it. And now we're getting to the big final drop. What the attraction is, of course, sort of known for. Whenever you're walking up to here, you see that big drop going down, and you're thinking, what is going to lead up to that drop? Well, here, nothing leads up to the drop, and that is one of the biggest complaints I've seen about this ride. I feel like instead of having Mama Odie here, as you see, kind of getting you ready for this big celebration that Tiana's about to hold, it should have been the Shadow Man, like everyone is saying. I think that would have been really cool, having like the tiki faces around you with the shadows sort of going up the walls with his theme song playing. I think it really would have been an intimidating scene and really would have gotten us ready for that big drop. And then once the release comes, we're all relaxed, and it was a fun time and stuff like that. It releases the tension, but now with this drop, there is no tension being built up, so it's kind of just there, out of nowhere. A lot of that just seems to be the big trend about this attraction. Everything seems to be just very out of place, and there is no cohesive story that is following here. If I was an average guest going to Disney and I had no clue what the story was, I didn't do any research or anything like that, like how a lot of families are, I would not know what the story is here. I would just think it, has something to do with this party, which I guess is kind of what they were going for. Speaking of which, here is the party, and it's just, a lot of animatronics, very similar to the end scene, which I think it looks fine, but it's just, again, it just doesn't really make much sense to me. And I think that's what the big issue here is with a lot of people, is that it's just not a compelling story enough, like how Splash Mountain was. Splash Mountain had a beginning, middle, end, and it had an antagonist, something to raise the stakes up. Unlike this attraction, which is just going through a river, not really knowing what's going on. Like, why are you shrunk down the size of a little fly? Why are you looking for this special spice with Tiana? It doesn't really make much sense, and I think that's ultimately why this ride is getting a lot of hate. The animatronics and lighting effects are, of course, spectacular. It's modern day technology with Disney. Of course, it's going to be pretty impressive, but as far as the story goes, it's honestly one of the weaker storylines for an attraction. But yeah, I know a lot of people are already hating on this attraction, and I don't think that's going to change whenever the ride actually opens to the public. And some people might say that it's too early to hate on it, but I just think from the videos alone, it kind of just shows how blank this attraction actually is. I think if this attraction was a separate standalone attraction with the layout specifically made for this storyline, it could have worked a lot better. But I just think with the layout of Splash Mountain, with all like the thrill the attraction has, and there being no villain or no stakes for the attraction to actually, kind of give a reason for why we're feeling these sudden thrilling moments, it just makes the entire thing feel very awkward and out of place overall. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me down in the comments below, what do you think of the Tiana's Bayou adventure? Now that all the videos are releasing out and people are doing a lot of POVs of it, tell me, what do you think of it? What do you think of the, the animatronics and the storyline both? And if you would compare it to Splash Mountain as a better or worse attraction. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.